In this video, I want to talk about food. Over the past few years of my life, I've been trying to become a healthier individual, and I realized that food was a big aspect to this. And I started to understand how food was really important in shaping um, my overall health and um, the health of others around me. And I think some people today we we see food one type of way in which it holds no meaning or there's nothing to it. Food is just food. It's something we eat and consume, and then we don't think anything of it, whether it's good food or bad food. Whatever food it is, we just eat it and don't think anything of it. But over the past few years, I've kind of changed my perspective on food and realized like how powerful it was in shaping not only my health but the health of others and the world around me. So in this video, I just wanted to share that with you guys, hopefully changing your perspective on food and um, helping you guys realize that it could be the epicenter of all your health problems that you deal with. This is something uh, this is something I've been sharing with my family over these past few years and trying to really emphasize it to them that the uh, food you're eating is affects your overall health. Um, like to start, the first thing that really came out to me was food and disease and how those things are connected. In America, especially, if you guys don't know, we're in a chronic disease pandemic, and from quickly looking it up, 6 in 10 Americans deal with a chronic disease, and 70% of all deaths are uh, from chronic disease. Cancer um, and heart disease. The one of them, those two are like the leading causes of death. And it's funny to me how when I noticed that all these chronic conditions, heart disease, cancer, hypertension, etc., all they are all treatable with just based on the food you eat. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just found that crazy how all those chronic conditions, um, which we suffer from today, are preventable just by simply changing what food you eat. And I think a lot of people don't see food like this as as medicine in being able to heal yourself from chronic, prevent and reverse chronic conditions. And one reason that is because of the food and healthcare industries just don't tell us this because they're just a business and they try to maximize profit over um, the care for us and the well-being of us. So they kind of want us to get disease and come sick so they can just make money off of us. And it's really fucked up when you think about it. But um, yeah, we can't trust these industries to uh, kind of lead us or guide us in the right way of our health because it clearly hasn't been working. And people just, I think a lot of people just need to realize that these chronic diseases that apparently just showed up, they don't just show up for no reason. It's not like a contagious disease you got out of nowhere. All chronic disease conditions are, you know, stem from the food you eat, and that's what makes food a powerful thing because the ability of food to reverse and prevent all these chronic conditions, which many people suffer from. And this is something I've been trying to trying to get through with my dad, especially as he experienced his hypertension and high blood pressure. His doctor tells him about having high blood pressure, and it's the salt that's causing his high blood pressure, even though it's the alcohol and the processed foods he's eating and consuming, and not simply just because of salt. So it's something I'm trying to get through him And I'm also just thinking in the long term for my parents. Um, Same with my mom. She just had a gallstones, and the doctors were instantly trying to yank that gallstone away from her. And so many people are in that fear mode, and they can't think otherwise. And think it's the best decision, so they get their gallbladder yanked out, and then they have digestion problems down the road. But they tried getting her on a low-fat diet, but I was trying to do some research and make sure that she had the right food, which would be able to help her recover and keep her gallbladder um, and stuff like that. So yeah, we can't really trust these industries because they're against us. They want to make profit off of us, and that's one reason why we don't see this. That the food is responsible for the chronic disease pandemic because they don't want you to know that because then they wouldn't be making any money. So that's one thing. Same with sickness. Besides chronic disease, like just getting sick, coughing, sneezing, stuff like that, throwing up. I used to get sick all the time when I was younger too. Halloween, Christmas, eating the processed food, the bad food. I'd be throwing up. I'd have headaches, coughing, sneezing. Now that I've, you know, um, realized that food was, and once I like filtered out which foods were bad and good, I was able to realize that I wasn't getting sick anymore. I didn't have any headaches. I wasn't sneezing, coughing, or becoming sick really. I was never severely sick. I'm never throwing up. And that's something else you realize. Same goes with my dad again. He he's chronically sick. I always hear him blowing his nose or coughing, and he wonders why. And he asks me, "Oh, is something going around? Are you guys okay? Are you feeling good?" And I tell him, "Yes, of course. I'm good. I'm eating the right foods. It's making my immune system stronger. So therefore, I'm not I'm not getting as sick as easily, or I'm not could my body's able to defend this sickness much better." And that's just something else as well. Um, that's something else the healthcare industries can profit off of through medicine and stuff like that. I haven't taken medicine in such a long time, and I honestly have not been severely sick in such a long time. Yes, I maybe have like a little stuffy nose, but other than that, I'm not throwing up or have a headache or chronically feel sore or achy. I feel just fine. So yeah, that's one main thing I want you guys to get out of this is to change your perspective on how food is medicine and how it's able to heal all these chronic diseases, prevent chronic diseases, and um, make you make your body much stronger against sickness. And it's the food you eat that makes you sick as well. Another thing I like to talk about is how food affects our mental health, mood, and mind. This is something we really don't think of. Starting with mental health, there are a lot of other factors that affect our mental health, of course. Uh, Depression, anxiety, um, etc. These things are obviously affected by other things, like your experiences, past experiences, histories, traumas, other factors. But I'd like to think how one, you know, one important reason for this is also because of the food you're eating. And, there's been research shown that the certain foods you eat, like bad processed foods, have been linked to uh, depression, anxiety, and mental disorders. But one way this does actually affect you is to, especially your gut, because the food shapes the gut and all the organisms in your gut, and they play an important role in shaping uh, your hormones and your mood, um, etc., and important neurochemical messengers that connect to your brain that connect with depression and anxiety. And I think um, you know uh, depending on what food you eat, this determines the ratio of good bacteria and bad gut bacteria, which can influence these things. And so I think people need to see that too, is that the food you're eating also has a powerful effect to affect your mental health. Um, especially with mood. I I used to think my little brother's playing video games. I used to be just like him. He's playing video games. He's not eating the best food. And now I think too that so he has some temper tantrums, not to at him, but he sometimes gets mad and he can't control his emotions well. And I'm just starting to think, oh, maybe if it's something to do with this food because it's affecting his hormones and his mood and stuff like that. Um, Another thing too I've noticed is I didn't how food has affected my mental clarity. I didn't know what, especially through something called brain fog. I don't know if you guys heard that. Brain fog is like a fogginess in your head. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's kind of just something you have to feel. It's something you have to experience it. Brain fog, which maybe some of you do. I'm not calling you stupid. It's just by the food you're eating, you could be experiencing brain fog. So you have to experience it and then unexperience it to realize that you do have brain fog. Just that you'd have more mental clarity, because I realized that I used to eat, especially like through processed foods and some seed oils. I would eat those foods, and afterwards I'd get brain fog. So when I started eating healthier by removing processed foods and seed oils, then I realized that like I had a lot more mental clarity. And then, for example, I went hiking on Mount Washington, in a mountain in Vermont, and my mom, for some reason, she packed me. We packed. I don't know why she did, but I'm not hating on my mom. She packed some Slim Jims and uh, sunflower seeds, and the sunflower seeds had seed oils. It wasn't the end of the world. I still ate them. I had to eat something. I was hiking and doing a lot of physical activity, but I realized on top of the mountain that I had the brain foggy feeling. Something I didn't really want on the mountain, but I just you know kind of realized I had this sensation in my head. So, and I also realized that it was the foods, through trial and error, that what foods caused it, what foods didn't. And yeah, it's something to think about too, especially since it helped me improve my overall focus. Moving on, I want to talk about sleep. I'll let you guys know that sleep is very important in determining your overall health. It's one of the best, it's the thing that allows us to recover and make sure our bodily functions are ready for the next day. Um, if you get shitty sleep, you're not gonna feel good. But I just want to just express how food has improved my overall sleep. Obviously, if you get good sleep by making sure you're getting enough hours, you're not staying up on your phone, or you're sleeping throughout the night without constantly waking up. But also just the food you eat first is going to make sure your body is properly recovering better and more efficiently. But also, yeah, it helps you improve the sleep, and again, in relation to your gut, helping you transmit those neurochemicals which help uh, send the message to your brain that it's time to sleep, or it helps produce things like melatonin and serotonin. Yeah, and simply just you don't have to know all this science or anything. I don't. So I just noticed how eating healthier foods, I've been getting a lot better sleep. It's all interconnected. That's why I'm thinking and expressing to you guys how powerful food is, because it affects many things in our lives, and it could be the the main problems of our health. And yeah, so the food you could be eating could be the one determining factor if you're getting good sleep or bad sleep. So it's something to think about. The next thing I want to talk about is food and genes. Um, you know, yeah, food is able to dictate what genes are expressed and not expressed. And I just think of this through, offspring and raising healthy kids and proper baby development, and just, yeah, make sure you have a right kid. And, you only have a certain amount of time to get, having a kid right, from sperm and egg to fetal development to actual birth. You only have a certain amount of time to get it right, and during those, you know, months, you want to make sure you're eating the right foods to ensure you have a healthy kid. And what I found also interesting was how it didn't just affect your immediate kid, but future generations. It could affect the future generations, your whole family tree down the road based on your eating habits. So you want a nice healthy family tree, and that's something to think about. And today, we all want to have, and most people would like to have healthy kids, and they really just don't understand, or they don't know what foods are good and bad, or like what foods they should be eating to help uh, you know proper development of your kid. And I think there's a lot of misinformation on the internet again too. They don't tell you the right things. That's again, that goes with the food and healthcare industries. But um, when talking about um, proper baby development, there's been research that shows that just if processed foods or bad foods has been linked to you know development disorders and stuff like that. And my mom's a special ed tutor, so many kids, some kids are born with autism, and they just think it's like by chance or by nature. But a crucial part is also nurture and what you're eating. You look in, I don't know, you look in nature, and besides, it's very rare to see, I feel like, an animal to be born with a disorder, unless nowadays we live in a world with a bunch of environmental toxins. So maybe that obviously has uh, that is an important factor in determining the health of the offspring. But I'm not saying that every animal is born perfect, and there's some rare occasions, but based on the foods you eat has a huge influence, especially on if your child is born with autism, because that's a developmental disorder that they've obtained through that. One possible way is the toxins that you've been exposed to and the food you've been eating. And yeah, that's really something important to consider. If you want a healthy child, then their food can dictate the health of your child and future generations to come. So yeah, so the food doesn't just affect us; it also affects others, including your kids, future generations, and even more things we don't realize, because which I'll get into, um, and that's going to be how food affects like socioeconomic things. So what I mean by that is, I was doing research. I wrote about this, and you can read the written version of this YouTube video at a newsletter. But um, it was about the cocoa kids, and there's been kids shown who were working in uh, child labor conditions, or they were basically uh, performing child labor for these bigger companies, chocolate companies like Hershey, Nestle, etc. Um, and that's just something messed up. First of all, it made me like just grateful for the things I have now and what I'm doing. Like in the paper, it was shown that like kids who were 11 at the age of 11 were farming the cocoa from the farms, and they didn't have the best. They weren't in the best conditions. They're just kids, and they were hungry, and they're drinking milky water and stuff, and that's just messed up. So yeah, it made me grateful for the type of things. Like when I was 11, I was just playing video games and hanging out with friends. I didn't know anything, so really made me grateful for my, I guess, childhood. And I'm just saying, so if you're consuming, it's our choice to choose to buy their products. So Hershey, chocolate, like the chocolate Hershey bars, I'm sure that cocoa comes from those farms where the kids are performing child labor. And obviously, it's a more complex issue. You have these kids are doing this for survival. You know, they need to feed themselves and their families, and this is how they do it. Which there were other ways. They could at least go to school and learn how to read and write. But um, yeah, that's just, I don't know. It was crazy to read that paper. Multi-billion dollar companies, it's obvious that they can. So that's something to think about, how your food choices are not just impacting you, but also other people, like the cocoa boys. And it definitely shouldn't have to be like that. So that's something to consider with your food choices as well. Okay, and the last thing I'd like to talk about in this video is how food choices impact the environment. Especially if you're some type of, you know, I think everyone should be an environmentalist, but if you are environmentalist, you maybe already consider your food choices, but and how those affect the environment. But I also just want to speak out on how food affects the environment. And there's two ways that affect at least America the most, and um, in the way we produce the food. So we have big food companies producing foods through monocultures and CAFOs. And a monoculture is where one crop is grown over the entire field, so it's one crop. And you see those big wheat fields or soy fields like that. And I just want to say how, again, through choosing what food you eat, impacts these things and impacts us. Monocultures are bad in which the way they destroy the land, because there's only one crop being grown, so the soil becomes infertile, meaning so you're not able to use it. It becomes less and less rich over time. And me personally, I'm someone who thinks very long term. I think any decision I make, or most of my decisions, I don't know, I just think like really long term, and how this is just something that's not going to be sustainable. Obviously, it's not right now because they have to dump a bunch of fertilizer and pesticides in the mono cropped soil, and that leaches into our water. We consume it. It's on the food that you eat because there's only one crop too, so they need to spray more stuff. And yeah, the pesticides they use greatly affect the biodiversity around, killing the insects, the birds, the microorganisms in the soil, which really helps in the process of growing the food and the health of the food as well. Just anything in general, we need animals are important, obviously, for maintaining a lot of things. And yeah, that's how monocultures affect us too. So that's how it directly affects us. Like I said, we consume these things, the pesticides and the uh, fertilizers in the water. We're consuming those, and those have been shown to lead to cancer, uh, birth defects, etc., all that type of bad stuff, just because of a monoculture. So yeah, that's one way. And then the second way was CAFOs. The confined animals in the tight spaces. It affects the environment in the same way as monocultures, because the animals in these CAFOs depend on the feed from monocultures, so they're affecting us in the same way. So the pesticides, the fertilizers, and then the food in which you're eating these animals, they don't live natural lifestyles, and they're injected with antibiotics. They live in cages and stuff like that. They don't get sun on their skin. So we're also consuming these animals. So these bad things injected into them, the antibiotics, etc., whatever else they put in them, and as you consume those animals, they become sick because of this, and you're just consuming the sick animals. And it's just not the most sustainable way. Yeah, we have to feed a bunch of people, but I think there's just better ways in doing these systems. It's just controlled by these. They were controlled and set by these big companies because it's the most efficient way to make profit. And that's yeah, just another more corruption from the the food and healthcare industries. So from this video, I hope I kind of change your perspective on the way you see food, I guess. A lot of us just we don't see food as anything but food. Like I said, when I was younger, I didn't see food as anything. Um, I just whatever I saw, I ate. That's how you are when I was a kid. Whatever was in front of me, I'd eat. So at school, I'd always eat chicken patties. I just ate them. Whatever slob was thrown in front of me. My grandma would always offer me some cookies. I'd eat them. And my dad would always buy me Little Caesars pizza. And I'd eat it feeling like complete shit. But, I ate it anyways because I wasn't conscious and didn't think anything of it. And I think most of us sometimes see food as like that, or we don't see it for anything greater for than what it is. So I hope what I stated in this video would kind of change your perspective on food and like especially how powerful it is. Like I don't understand how people don't like if you don't realize, example, you're sick, you have chronic disease, you're suffering, how food is just able to heal you and prevent all that suffering, and it's a no-brainer. Why? That's another factor. You might just need some help and guidance on what food to eat because again, we can't trust food and healthcare industries. They won't help you, and I want to help you guys with that as well. So yeah, we can't depend on them. But I hope I changed your view on food. So talking about how it heals all chronic disease. If you have a chronic disease condition, it's just from the food you're eating. If you find yourself becoming sick, it's the food you're eating. Um, those things, especially I'm thinking in the long term. I'm trying to save my parents' health. My dad already has some chronic conditions. He's sick constantly. I'm trying to get it to him that food is medicine. Especially for my mom, I'm thinking in the long term for their health and well-being. I hope you also see how food doesn't just affect you, but affects everything else, like all aspects. So I talked about the sleep. If you're struggling to get sleep, it could be because the food you're eating and other lifestyle factors, but the food you're eating. If you're expecting a kid or you're going through pregnancy, um, the food you eat affects those things. The quality of the egg and sperm, the proper development, and even later down the road, the kid itself, how the health of your kid, if you want them to grow properly and stuff like that. Um, doing what's best for others through your food choices. Uh, Something that doesn't directly affect us at all. The cocoa boys, there's kids out there suffering because of not exactly because of us, but our food choices can influence that type of things by supporting these big companies who are taking advantage of little boys for no reason, just because they're little boys, they don't know anything, and they're in a third world country. If like in the article, some of these boys are just being taken or human trafficking, and just to work. So, and that's that is just I still find that mind blowing. Oh, and of course the environment. Especially if you're I think everyone should be an environmentalist, not in the way that you have to go on a not drive a car or ride a bike because of fossil fuels, but then your food choices can significantly help the environment out because in the long term, you know, those things are important and they affect you directly, like the pesticides and fertilizers, which end up in our water and on the food. So it's important to get organic stuff, um, especially if you're consuming those things, as they've been linked to uh, the all sorts of problems, and you don't want that down the road. So yeah, I hope I just change your view on food. I'll talk about quickly solutions or things that we can do. Actually, I'll do that now. The things we can do to help all these problems is first, um, first thing is avoiding the processed stuff because that's the main killer. These companies put them out there on purpose because they want you to come sick, chronic diseased, and end up in one of their hospital beds. Um, that's something you have to think about. Well, I always thought I was going to end up in a hospital bed, but now I know I'm not going to because of my food choices. Second, incorporate, the nutrient dense foods. By that I mean, um, whole foods, uh, meats, fruits, veggies, you know, raw dairies, whatever works for you. That's another process to see what works for you, but mainly is avoid the processed foods. Um, Second, support the environment. A lot of us are buying from these stores who get their food from monocultures and um, CAFOs, and we're supporting these big industries. So that's something you don't want to do because the negative effects on the environment and your health, and the whole system's corrupt. That's one thing I'm doing is I'm not supporting that corrupt system. People deserve better. Uh, so yeah, so instead of supporting these monocultures, big food companies, health and care industries, and CAFOs, you can buy your food locally at farms or farmers markets. You can just buy food from regenerative farms online. You can it's not bad to go into the grocery store. I think some people are limited to that. You just look for the correct and official food labels, such as organic, organic, if you're talking about meat, grass-fed, finished, sustainable, regenerative, stuff like that. So those are the things you want to look for. And yeah, so those are some, quick solutions. So from everything I just said, how food affects, is affecting the chronic disease pandemic. It affects, just your body's ability to get sick and maintain sickness. Our mental health, moods and mind, our sleep, our genes, offspring development, environment, and others like the socioeconomic policies and the cocoa boys. And I hope this kind of changed your view on food and you kind of see food differently as a different perspective. Next time you go to the grocery store, if you're in the grocery store, stay curious and ask yourself where this food came from, how is it made, and how does it affect me? Does it make me sick? Or is it one step closer to chronic disease? Is it hurting my future generations? Is it providing fair work labors for the cocoa boys? Is it hurting the environment? Those are all things to think about. So with everything I said, I hope your view on food changed. Yeah, hope it changed for the better. So that's everything I wanted to say. If your view on food did change, you guys can like this video. You guys can subscribe to my brother's and I's channel. You can look out for future YouTube videos. That's everything I wanted to say. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.